Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the 143. This is Under Review. We're coming at you live with episode 146.
Got another doozy inbound. As you can see, we are together once again for
In the flesh.
the first time in a couple weeks.
In a while. Yeah, it's been a minute. So we're here in the same domain, and we're pumped to bring you content just like the good old days.
Indeed.
And another exciting week in the NFL. Week 8. It's flying by. Before we know it, it will be over, unfortunately. But we're trying to enjoy it while it lasts. Cowboys lost again, so nothing's changed there.
No surprises there.
Yep.
Have yet to beat the 49ers this century, it feels like.
You're probably right.
I remember we beat them once in the last decade, I think, maybe.
I just know the last 4 or 5 years we've lost to them. So,
but for the most part, they've had our number as of recent years. So, obviously, we are very pessimistic here as Cowboys fans.
Yep.
Not expecting to go to the playoffs or do anything.
To win this weekend, so I'm not even surprised. But yeah, actually, that's what our stat of the week, brought to you by Andrews Logistics, is on. Brock Purdy had 56 rushing yards. The Cowboys team whole total had 56 rushing yards. So Brock Purdy, who is not known as a running quarterback, single-handedly tied the Dallas Cowboys rushing team. We are dead last in the NFL in rushing, the Dallas Cowboys.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought going out and not signing a true running back one, and you would find yourself having issues with the run game?
You want to take a guess at who first is in the NFL? A wild guess?
The Ravens.
The Ravens.
Okay.
Who have Derrick Henry.
Which is exactly who we wanted, and we said we'd want it here at Under Review. Maybe a billion times. So, your player of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Jameis Winston had himself an evening
that he did
in Cleveland as they beat, and it was a pretty big upset.
Yeah,
the Baltimore Ravens at home. Led a game-winning touchdown drive, almost threw the game away, basically threw a pick to Kyle Hamilton. He hit Kyle Hamilton perfectly in stride, and he dropped it and had his face in the dirt because he knew that was the game right there. Very next play, he throws a 40-yard bomb to the end zone, and the Browns would end up winning the game.
It was a thriller, and it was awesome to see Jameis Winston, or famous Jameis, as we like to call him, lead the Browns down the field for that touchdown drive. I mean, the throw, the receiver was wide open, obviously disregarding the throw that he had before. We almost threw the game away. But with Jameis, you get that. But, I mean, he had a great stat line, and it's honestly, I'm super pumped that we were able to make him player of the week because it's just a guy that – everyone loves.
He's hung around the league a little bit.
Yeah, he's made
had a decent couple seasons there in Tampa Bay.
And Browns fans are loving it now.
Rode it out as a backup a little bit here and there. Just kind of bounced around for a little bit and finds himself in the starting role once again.
Yeah, and with the Browns season, they were 1-5. Now they're 2-5, and their season's done. But at least they have something they can hang.
Well, that's what was missing was quarterback play, period. Deshaun Watson was horrible, and at least they got to see some life in the offense.
Yeah, it was cool to see, and it shows you the quarterback really was the problem there, which everyone knew. But great game in the AFC North, as I think a lot of them will be here down the stretch. Congrats to famous Jameis for making player of the week. Super glad to have him. Thursday night football, Rams, Vikings. Rams came in as the underdogs here, and the Vikings had only one loss coming into this game. The Rams took the game, though, from them.
They had their weapons return, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and they both made a lasting impact on the game. They came back a lot earlier than people had expected, and in a great time of need, they came and they showed out. Rams would win it 30-20. Nacua, 106 yards, no touchdowns, but Cooper Kupp did have 51 yards and a touchdown. They combined for 12 catches. So the receiving core has two more threats once again. I mean, that's exactly what we were expecting to see from the Rams offense this year was Nakua and Cooper Kupp going at it once again.
Hopefully the Vikings, they're kind of been trending down the last couple of weeks with two straight losses, but hopefully they'll be able to right the ship again. We saw the Rams last year be really bad at the beginning and
snuck into a wild card spot there at the end.
Could happen again. Those are Matt Stafford's guys. Without them, though, obviously the Rams will not be very good. And
their division's not the greatest.
Yeah.
So, 49ers are, even though they won this weekend, they've been struggling a little bit.
Yeah, they beat us.
Seahawks haven't been winning a lot of games. Same thing with the Cardinals. So it's kind of up for grabs.
It is up for grabs this year, which it's not normally, but we'll have to see. It'll probably come down to the Rams-Niners as it normally does, as it normally has here the last couple of years. Big NFC South showdown in Tampa Bay, Falcons, Bucks. Those games are always a little close, very high scoring as usual. The Bucks were playing without their two best receivers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, both out. Godwin out for the year. Evans will be back in a few weeks, but Falcons took the win there. They've been rolling. Kirk's looking good. He had 4 touchdowns. Their team's really starting to mesh.
Yeah, they're looking great. Kirk's really settling into that role as they move on to 5-3 in their interdivisional matchup. One thing I've been seeing a lot of on Twitter is that one play with Kyle Pitts where he's walking into the end zone with a corner draped over his back, and he knocks the ball out. Looks to be premature, but no one said anything during the game, so they just ruled it a touchdown, and that's just how that went.
This is a random question. Do you remember where Kyle Pitts went to college? Was it Florida?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just making the connection here. We had 3 Florida boys this week make complete fools of themselves. Kyle Pitts didn't get caught. Okay, Kyle Pitts didn't get caught. They didn't call it, but he should have been called for a fumble before he went into the end zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stevenson with the Bears for the thing he did with the Hail Mary where he was taunting the crowd.
Tyreek Stevenson, yep.
Okay, he went to Florida. Anthony Richardson also making a fool of himself this week. All 3 went to Florida. Just saying.
And the big thing with that Kyle Pitts deal is that they only won the game by 5. So
could have been massive.
You think about that touchdown gets taken away and they kick a field goal instead, that completely changes the complexion of the game.
New York said that they didn't have the right camera angle or something.
But you can literally see it on the pylon cam. You should be able to, because right, that's where it happens.
How do you not have the right? How do you not have that? They said they didn't have that camera angle. The pylon cam.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
You got to figure something out up there, guys.
In other words, they just blatantly missed it or ignored it.
Maybe they had some money on the game.
I was about to say
anything, but it could have been.
Maybe the script was the Falcons winning.
You never know. Not really much to talk about here. Tua came back from his injury, but the Cardinals came back in the fourth quarter, kicked a game winner against the Dolphins. Cardinals looking like slightly a team in destiny. They've had a few game winners this year. Maybe they have been
very, very up and down. Had a couple good wins, and then they had that one week where they got blasted by the Bills. That was just kind of a random whatever. But they've had Kyler Murray back, which has been huge for them just because he's so talented.
Right.
Tua comes back for the Dolphins, and I saw this play has been really popular where he scrambles out on a 3rd down and slides to safety, and you can see there's videos of Dolphins fans like getting up and cheering or like standing and yelling at the TV, yelling "slide," and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, but he's a concussion magnet.
He is, and unfortunately for the Dolphins, they are horrible without Tua. Obviously, they still lost with him in there, but they need Tua to had nothing,
have a chance. But this is a game, the Colts-Texans game that we need to talk about. There wasn't much. Colts kind of came back a little bit at the end. Texans pretty much had the game, and they won, which means they take the 2-0 sweep of the Colts this year. And big news out of that game, Stephon Diggs tore his ACL, will miss the remainder of the year. So the Texans are down another receiver with Nico Collins being out right now. That's not the storyline coming out of that game. Anthony Richardson on a 3rd and goal, on a 2nd and goal, I think. 2nd and goal, threw a guy off of him. Yeah, it was 2nd and goal. Threw a guy off of him. Kind of had a nice scrambling play to get back to the line of scrimmage. The play before that had scrambled like 29 yards down the field. Then he proceeds to have another scrambling play. And then gets up, taps his helmet, and walks over to the sideline, basically saying, like, I need a sub. That's the sign for I need a sub. So Joe Flacco comes in and nothing happens, but it's 3rd and goal. It's a very big play in a big divisional game that could decide who wins the division, once you get towards the end of the year, correct?
Absolutely.
And so he, after the game was asked, what was wrong? Like, were you injured? Did something happen on that scramble? And he said, no, I was just tired. I came out of the game because I was tired.
That's a brain dead response.
We got to talk about it.
First off, you should know better than to say that, than to publicly admit that in front of the billion viewers that are watching the game, watching whatever. But that's inexcusable. You're an NFL athlete.
Never heard of that. Have you ever heard of that? I've never seen that happen before.
Especially as a quarterback.
You don't get to come out as a quarterback.
I mean, I get it. I get it if you're injured. But it's also one of those things where, like, the only way you should be going off the field is on a cart. If you ask me, you're supposed to be the franchise guy. They drafted you very high last season, at the beginning of last season. And so they're placing a lot of stock in you panning out and being as good as you're supposed to be. And you're just, you're literally the franchise. You're the face of the franchise because you're supposed to be the quarterback of the future. And he just makes them all look foolish.
Yeah, this is he's getting ripped by media members and especially former players all over right now. But it's well deserved. I mean, today they came out. He's being benched for Joe Flacco. I mean, he's only played 15 games before he got to the NFL, college, and so college. He just didn't play much in college, and they're saying like Lamar Jackson, all he does is run and throw. Does he ever come out of the game because he's tired? No, absolutely not. Like, as a quarterback, you set the standard for your team. And so, one, you got a lot of guys coming out here and arguing you don't play as physically tough of position as the rest of the team. So, like, a lot of O-linemen I've seen come out saying, former O-linemen, of course, saying, like, these guys who are protecting you are out there every play in the trenches, getting beat up, pushed around, protecting you, so you can make the right decisions for your team. They're not coming out because they're tired. Linemen don't get to come out unless they're hurt. So it's something that I've never seen before, and it's something that you don't want in an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, obviously for the O-lineman, you're getting banged around and kicked around. Literally every single play, someone is literally trying to kill you.
Yep.
And to turn around and see your quarterback get up and say, I need a break it's kind of ridiculous. And maybe the Colts become the team of destiny under the leadership of Joe Flacco. I mean, we've seen the potential there. He looked decent in the games that he played this year, and he was pretty good for what was it, like half a season that he started last year with the Browns.
Let him do the playoffs.
Let him to the playoffs. Unfortunately, they got stumped early, but we know the talent is there and the experience is there, the leadership. But
maybe it'll be good for AR to learn from Flacco.
Hopefully that's something he can grow from, just because whenever he seems very talented, he just has to hone in on his skills and get his mind right. And
you cannot tell people that you took a playoff because you're tired. I mean,
at least just lie and say like your ankle hurt or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of the people are saying now. I mean, I like what Pat McAfee said about it is like, dude, this is one of the 32 most like coveted jobs in the world, being an NFL starting quarterback. You don't get to take a playoff because you're tired, because you know what? Somebody's right there waiting to take your spot. So it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I mean, we can't just like not come into work because we're tired. That's a job. You have a job to do. And It blows my mind. I mean, we don't not do this podcast because we're tired, right, Nick?
Absolutely not. Have we missed a week? I don't think so.
No, we haven't.
No, I don't think so.
146 straight. I mean, if we took an episode off because we're tired, we'd be letting our fans down, just like he let the entire Colts nation down.
Indianapolis.
Shame on you, Anthony Richardson. Shame. All right, Bears Commanders. Let's talk about another mistake.
That was a big week. Commanders look like they were in command of that game for the most part. Obviously, they weren't scoring touchdowns, but it was a very, very low scoring game, all but underwhelming. Jaden Daniels threw for a lot of yards, and whenever the Bears needed to go down and score a touchdown, they got one. And
we wouldn't even be talking about this game, honestly, if it wasn't for this last epic fail by the Bears.
It was a Hail Mary that ultimately cost the Chicago Bears the game. And I'm sure all of you have seen that video on Twitter of where the guy who tips the ball up to Noah Brown, ex-Cowboy, yeah, he can catch that, but he can't catch a pass perfectly in stride in Jacksonville. We'll never forget.
Yeah, never.
Well, this guy Tyreek Stevenson is turning around, chirping at the crowd. And the play has started. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is running back and forth in the pocket, trying to get free so he can step up and chunk a bomb. And what's funny about that video, side note, is like you can see some Bears fans in the second row like pointing, like, hey, there's a play going on. You better turn around and do something. And so the ball gets thrown up in the air, and he goes to the front of the pile, jumps up, tips it straight back to Noah Brown.
You see the video,
and
his hand
it goes right to Noah Brown's breadbasket where there are zero defenders around him, and he just catches it, and they win the game.
It's just a boneheaded mistake. I mean, you're celebrating before the game is over. I mean, these are things that like you learn in like when you're young. Yeah, when you're a kid that you don't, these are fundamental errors these people are making that we're seeing. And yeah, he jumped up. He actually batted the ball like up. He didn't even try to hit it down. His hand was straight up. He punched it straight up. Everyone's talking about the Bears coaching, but I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know how that play is not. Like, I don't know how you can look at coaching necessarily. I mean, they did let up a pass right before that they probably should have been more on top of everything. But I mean, in the end, like a Hail Mary is a Hail Mary, and you should be batting that down as a cornerback.
I mean, I agree with what Dan Quinn said in his postgame, where the play before that was just as important because they needed those extra 13, 15 yards, whatever it was, so they could put themselves in a position to, ultimately get to that Hail Mary. So I think that other play was important. Obviously, Matt Eberflus is saying all they cared about was guarding against the Hail Mary.
But you hit that ball down. You were not even talking about the play before it.
Right, exactly.
So
another thing, there's Caleb Williams on the sideline, his reaction. He's groaning and moaning and like rolling his eyes and kind of chirping at the defense a little bit. And it's like, okay, well, he didn't play a perfect game. You went out there and scored 15 points and you only threw 130 yards and no touchdowns. Like, let's calm down, buddy. Okay.
Yeah, the Bears as a whole right now have a lot to figure out, which, oh, shocker. We said that coming into the season, didn't we? And they've played nobody yet, which is why they have a winning record. Just saying. Because once they start playing these NFC North games, which they haven't yet, they're going to start getting killed.
I was about to say, they're going to get whooped by all the other teams in their division.
Yeah, so just another fatal error there by another Florida player, as we've been highlighting all week. Chiefs win another game. They beat the Raiders. Not much to say there. Just another win for the Chiefs. That's a team they should beat. Not shocking at that point.
Yep. Travis Kelce getting more involved. Obviously, he's been getting dogged on a little bit just for his performance this season. Caught 10 passes for 90 yards and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt scores another touchdown, has another productive outing.
Yep.
And like Joseph said, it's just the Chiefs being the Chiefs. They go out and win another game.
They're finding ways to win. They don't look great, but they're finding ways to win.
The last undefeated team. Yeah. And they have been...
and you would not think that, seeing the way
they make it through week 8, 7-0.
Yeah,
and with how many injuries they have,
it's impressive.
They lost their wide receiver 1 and their running back 1. So, but they
finding ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It is impressive from the Chiefs. Monday Night Football, Steelers beat the Giants. Russell Wilson gets another win. Not much to say here. The Giants being the Giants. Danny Danny Dimes into the game with a pick, and Giants doing Giants things. Not sure how they keep getting primetime games, but also not sure how
that was not an ideal primetime matchup there between Giants Steelers. You shouldn't have the Giants in a primetime game. That's
Definitely not.
That's absolutely ridiculous. I know what a lot of people are talking about is a George Pickens touchdown that was taken away, where he goes and sticks a foot out, and he touches the same foot down twice, and then is hit out of bounds. But it was ruled that it has to be 2 different feet down in order.
I agree with that. Do you agree with that?
I don't.
Really?
Just because a butt counts, an elbow counts, a forearm counts. If all that counts as 2 feet, I think hitting the same foot twice should count.
I can see that argument, but I also think, like, for me, it's still like 1 foot or 2 feet.
If the rule, obviously the rule states that it has to be 2 separate feet. So by the rule, it was the correct call, but I think you should be able to do that just because
I could see him changing it this offseason.
A butt counts, an elbow counts, a forearm counts. Those both technically count as 2 feet. And
a lot of times they have these rules because nothing like that's happened before. Maybe they'll change it.
And I do anticipate them changing that in the offseason.
Before we go, we will have to talk about the obligatory Cowboys game.
We'll just blast them real quick for old time's sake,
just
like we do every single week.
Doing it, just not really. Don't love doing it, but it's just something we have to do.
It was 24-30, but obviously the score does not properly reflect the performance. It makes it look a little bit better than it was.
Garbage time?
What I was going to say was Dak is great in garbage time.
He is.
When we were down 3 scores, the offense drives down the field and gets 2 touchdowns easily. But then when they're actually in a position to win the game and go down and make a game-winning drive, what does he do? He chokes it away. And what really killed it was the way they started the second half. They go in, halftime, it's 10-6, okay, defensive game. 49ers get the ball.
Defense isn't actually playing too badly at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
49ers get the ball, start the second half. They go down and score. And then the next drive, Dak throws a pick on the 30. And so it's like, okay, well, you just
to force it to CD.
You just murdered our defense because they were just out here, and now they can't let them get 30
They're
yards.
already depleted. We don't have anybody right now.
Put them right back on the field, and they give up a touchdown. And so at that point, it is 20-10. And so now you're down 2 scores. So you need to go down and score yourself, and the defense has to go and get a stop again. Well, what happens? We end up having to punt the ball away, and
get another touch.
Yeah, Brock Purdy gets a rushing touchdown, and now we're down 27-10. And so at this point, it's garbage time. So this is exactly what we're talking about. And then
number.
Offense goes down, scores no problem. It's 17-27. Defense gives up a field goal. It's 17-30. The game is
pretty much over, but it's not all the way over.
It's not completely over.
And that is when Dak shines.
They go down, score again. It's 24-30. And even still, at this point, we were like, the game's still over.
Yeah.
But the defense goes out, gets a huge stop.
Big stop.
And forces a turnover. And the Cowboys get it.
With plenty of time.
No timeouts, but I want to say
3:30.
We well over 3 minutes on the clock.
3:30 on the clock.
Well,
plenty of time to go down that field.
First play was a waste. Second play, he just chunks it out of bounds to Jake Ferguson. And then third down, when it's obvious 4-down territory, 3rd and 10, what does he do? He throws a 40-yard bomb into double coverage to our wide receiver.
We got to say, it wasn't a bad throw. It probably should have been caught. But the thing is, he wasted the first 2 downs, decides to chuck a Hail Mary on 3rd down. It would have been nice if Turpin comes down with it, but we're saying the play calling has been atrocious.
Because then it gets to 4th and 10, and he's forcing it downfield.
You don't take that chance on
into double coverage.
Yeah. You try to get some yards, get closer to a first down, or just get the first down. which I know we
That's a
don't
first
like
down,
doing.
that's a first down play. If you ask me,
Yeah.
try and catch the defense sleeping. You don't get it. Okay, cool. It's second
Or
and
even
10.
second down. I'm
We
honestly
got
fine
we
with
got
that
three
second
more
down.
plays to get these next 10 yards. We'll try it again, but no. And then we ultimately lose the game. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb has a great game. Kind of in garbage time a little bit, but
146 yards is pretty good.
still. And Dak is just not the guy.
Well, unfortunately, $60 million over 4 years says he's going to be the guy, whether we like it or not. So we're stuck with this garbage time play for a few years now. Obviously, Mike McCarthy will be out after this year, but I don't think it's going to change. Like Nick and I said, we need a reboot starting from the
third week in a row where Dak throws 2 interceptions. Obviously, he throws for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns, but don't let the stats fool you. Okay, that was not what was actually performed out there on the field. Dak needs to go. Mike needs to go. Jerry needs to go. We need to get a true running back one on our offense.
And Micah need to go. I'm tired of the podcast. I'm tired of them chirping all the time. All they do is talk. We have nothing to show for it recently. Micah and Trayvon, both when they were rookies, very exceptionally good. Since then, I'm sick of it because all they do is talk and they don't play and they don't show it on the field. I'm sick of both of them and I want them gone.
I don't know if you can necessarily pin it on Micah and Trayvon.
I'm out.
I like Micah.
Both.
Obviously, Trayvon gets burnt like some burnt toast out there.
Trayvon gets cooked every time he's out there. He's a liability right now.
If Micah he can be one of the better edge rushers in the game when he plays. Unfortunately, he's injured as of right now.
Oh, in playoffs when he plays? Yeah, he's non-existent. Get him out of here.
But I think he is someone who we can build our defense up with.
Non-existent defense. Get him out of here.
Obviously, he draws a lot of attention because he is getting doubled every single time he's out there on the field. But nonetheless, there is a lot of stuff that needs to happen in order for the Cowboys to win.
Let us do the podcasting. We're better at it than you, number one. And number two, you just need to focus on football.
I just don't think the Cowboys can win with
not like this.
Dak.
I think
and I keep thinking if we change Dak, that would fix it. But I think we have to change Mike as well.
But I feel like we'd replace Mike with another Jason Garrett / Mike McCarthy. So maybe Jerry needs to go.
True. And what we were talking about a long time ago is I think what should have happened was we should have made Dan Quinn the head coach. And now that is looking like it was the move to make, and we were just dumb and did not do it because obviously Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator here for a couple years, and it was obvious that he was not going to stick around any longer as a defensive coordinator. He wanted to go out and get a head coaching job, and he goes to the Commanders, and they are 6-2, I want to say. Yeah. Yes, they are 6-2. Obviously, we just talked about the game there. He's showing emotion on the sidelines. He looks great, and that's who I would have had as my head coach. I'd much rather have had Mike McCarthy.
Yep, I'd take a wooden doorknob at this point.
So here's like the end our shows and under review. We're bringing it back full circle to famous Jameis, as we like to call him here, and he said, "You can't say the sky's the limit when people are on the moon."
That's very true.
And that's the truth.
Famous Jameis takes the cake this week.
People were clowning on him for making that statement.
Maybe we should trade for him.
But, I mean, hey, is he wrong?
He's not. And honestly, that's who I want for my quarterback. I've made the decision. I'd take him in replacement of Michael Parsons as well, rushing on the D end. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in this week. We will see you next week for another episode of Under Review.